The first sign was a declined card at a pharmacy. Nothing dramatic, just a small red message on the screen while a tired cashier waited politely. I laughed awkwardly and used another card. Then came the apartment rejection 2 weeks later. Your credit history raised concerns. I remember sitting in my car afterward staring at the email, genuinely confused. I had spent most of my adult life obsessively careful with money. Automatic payments, low balances, emergency savings spreadsheets. Nobody else in the family would ever tolerate maintaining. At first, I thought identity theft meant strangers, not parents. The business loan surfaced slowly through paperwork requests and collection notices. $56,000. My brother's company name attached to filings I'd never seen before, digital signatures carrying my name. I drove to my parents' house with printed documents shaking slightly in my lap, still hoping there was some explanation that would preserve reality as I understood it. My mother opened the door and looked worried before I even spoke. That told me enough immediately. I spread the papers across the kitchen table. Nobody denied anything. That part still unsettles me. There was no dramatic confession, no visible guilt, just exhaustion, as though my discovery had arrived inconveniently earlier than expected. My father kept rubbing his forehead while my brother stared at the floor. Then my mother said the sentence that permanently altered how I understood my place in the family. You always had better credit. It's only fair. Fair. As if financial stability inside a family automatically became communal property. I remember staring at her trying to understand whether she truly believed what she was saying or had simply repeated it enough internally that it no longer sounded criminal to her. Apparently my brother's business had started collapsing almost immediately after launch. Vendors unpaid. Revenue projections missed. Refinancing impossible under his own credit history. So they used mine. Temporary solution. Family solution. Just until the business recovered. Only it never recovered. Payments stopped. My credit absorbed the damage quietly, while everyone hoped I either wouldn't notice or wouldn't escalate once I did. For several weeks I tried handling it privately. That matters. People later spoke about me like I rushed toward punishment. I didn't. I asked them to admit what happened formally to the bank, to cooperate with fraud correction procedures voluntarily, to help untangle the debt before legal intervention became necessary. Every conversation somehow returned to my reaction instead of their actions. You're tearing the family apart over paperwork. Your brother was desperate. We were going to fix it eventually. Nobody said, we stole your identity. The language stayed emotional on purpose because legal language would have made the situation impossible to soften. Then I met with a fraud investigator, middle-aged woman, calm voice, small office smelling faintly like burnt coffee. She reviewed the document silently for almost 20 minutes before looking up at me. If you don't formally dispute this, she said carefully, the liability remains yours. That sentence stripped away the last illusion I was still protecting. This wasn't family conflict anymore. It was documented fraud attached to my name, my future, my financial history. I filed the police report the next morning, quietly. No announcement, no threat. Afterward, events moved without me. Interviews, signature analysis, bank correspondence, legal notices arriving at my parents' house, and still, unbelievably, my family treated it like something that would eventually dissolve through emotional negotiation. At the first court appearance, my mother actually smiled at me in the hallway. Not warmly, reassuringly, like she still believed someone reasonable would eventually step in and remind everyone we were related. The courtroom changed that immediately, because institutions do not interpret love the way families do. Documents appeared on screens, timeline evidence, forged authorization records, payment histories, expert testimony about digital signatures and identity misuse. Nobody raised their voice. That made it worse somehow. The prosecutor spoke with calm precision, while my brother stared motionless at the table. For the first time since discovering everything, I watched my parents stop treating the situation emotionally and start understanding it structurally. Not betrayal, crime. When the felony ruling came down months later, my mother looked genuinely shocked. Not theatrical shock, disorientation. Like reality had failed to honor an unwritten family exception she'd trusted her entire life. Outside the courthouse afterward, nobody spoke to me directly. My father looked older than I remembered. My brother avoided eye contact entirely while signing paperwork with his attorney. I expected relief. Instead, I mostly felt hollow. The debt eventually cleared from my records through the legal process. My credit recovered slowly over the following year. Life became functional again. But several months later, while filling out paperwork for a new apartment, I reached the emergency contact section and stopped typing halfway through. Mother, father, brother. None of the names felt possible anymore. I left the line blank and submitted the form anyway. That silence felt more permanent than the courtroom ever did,